pictured here is your basic witch.
I understood, Andrew.
But what absolutely cannot be worn is this. Now.
Oh, no, well, that is. Come on.
Well, now wearing this costume to work would get you fired almost immediately.
Yes, it should.
Now, while at first it appears to be a standard police officer's uniform.
It does?
Yes. You mustn't forget about the.
Oh, no, Andrew Carnes!
TV number 1, 2 is not a winner, and 3 nobody remembers. What does it take to be number 1?
Like that, it's another day, another episode of year 2, beginning of year 2.
308 of A to the show. 308 days, Arthur. We've been traveling around the world, and now we're in New York, I guess, right?
Is that the idea of this podcast? I actually know nothing about this podcast.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. You will soon.
The most diverse, the most international podcast on the planet. Education, entertainment, all on the show.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on the
Pretty
show,
much.
Arthur.
Thank you
Meyer.
so much for coming on the show. So why don't you let the world know who you are and what you do?
Okay, my name is Arthur Meyer. I had a bowling birthday party in 3rd grade. And a little while later, I became a comedy person. So I worked at the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon for about seven and a half years. And I still write stuff and perform stuff. And I teach writing classes for kids. And I do some mutual aid stuff. And I'm about to start writing at a show called The Kids Tonight Show.
Whoa.
Wow.
Right. I think I've heard about the Kids Tonight Show.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting. So, is it out yet? I think it's still not out, right? But
it's still not out because I haven't started working for it yet.
I see. Okay, well, that's pretty cool. So, writing. Why did you choose writing instead of performing comedy? That's what I want to know.
Well, I really like doing both of those things, but I guess when I was at Fallon, I wrote and performed a lot, but I wrote more because Jimmy was the host of the show. So if I wrote too much stuff for myself, then I would probably be really annoying.
I guess, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I really like both of those things. I used to write stuff for The Onion for a long time. My sisters and I had a sketch comedy show that we performed with my parents every week in our living room when I was 11 years old. My mom liked it. My dad did not like it.
Oof.
Why didn't he like it?
Why didn't he like it? Yeah.
He didn't think that any of the sketches were funny.
Oh,
that was the main obstacle preventing him from liking it.
Well, now you're writing. You were writing on Fallon, and that shows that you actually were funny.
Yep.
That's true. I proved him wrong.
Does he still not find you funny, or is there did you get over it?
What's that?
I was asking if he still doesn't find you funny.
I think he thinks I'm funny now because I don't think I try quite as hard as I used to. I still try hard to be funny, but not quite as hard as I used to.
So how'd you end up working for Jimmy Fallon, which is one of the 3 most known Jimmys of the world, right? Like there's Kimmel, Fallon, and who else is there? I forgot.
I'm trying to think of just other Jimmys now. I know there's Jimmy Smits. Do you guys remember Jimmy Smits from NYPD Blue? Is that what the show was?
Oh no, I didn't think they posted that here, but yeah.
Jimmy Butler.
Okay, I recognize
Jimmy Butler,
that
the basketball
name.
player. You mean?
Jimmy
The
Page.
basketball player, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy Page, yeah.
Jimmy Page.
Well, I started writing at Fallon. I used to perform and write a lot of comedy in New York City, and then a good friend of mine got hired as the first writer for Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. And when you write sketches at the show, you also produce them, which means that you're in charge of casting them. And so he cast me in a sketch in the 2nd week of their show. And I did well enough on it to keep getting asked to do small parts on the show. And then eventually I just submitted, a writing packet. And I think on the 4th time I tried submitting a packet, they finally hired me. So that was in 2012.
Wait, 4 times? It took you 4 times to apply to get it?
Yeah, exactly. I was just about ready to give up on the show. And then that was when I got hired. Yeah. So I guess when you stop wanting something is when stuff happens.
Well,
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think so, because I think it's just you manifested enough. You just how do I say it? So you reached the threshold and you forgot about the waiting game part of things, and you technically waited and shit hit. You got it, which is pretty cool. It's
nice,
an interesting thing. Yeah.
And I do want to say, Arthur.
Yeah,
Right.
I've heard the same rule applying to when you're trying to get into a relationship or something. It's like when you're really seeking it and you're desperate, it's like no, you're not gonna find a relationship. But when you just stop looking, it just comes on.
Exactly.
Right. So, what was your relationship
Amazing.
like with Jimmy? I guess bouncing off of that.
It was really a very positive relationship. We were both really big fans of Saturday Night Live. Like he was
Yeah.
obsessed with the show when he was a kid, and I was obsessed with the show to the point where I would like memorize the dates of all the episodes. So if you were to say like April 11th, 1992, I could say Sharon Stone with musical guest Pearl Jam. Like that was how well I knew the show. It's crazy.
Let's try it out
Yeah,
then.
test
Saturday
it
Night
out.
Live, October 30th, 1999.
Oh wow, October 30th, 1999. Okay.
I'm gonna search this real quick.
They didn't have a new episode then, but the previous week was October 23rd, 1999, and Norm Macdonald hosted with musical guests Dr. Dre featuring Eminem and Snoop Dogg.
What? Can we verify that?
Safe.
Is that right?
Yep. That's
And then the
exactly
next-
it. Yeah.
And then
not bad.
the following episode was November 6th, 1999, with host Dylan McDermott and musical guest Foo Fighters.
Damn. I mean, I understand why there was a break between, on October 30th. It was
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, there was a Halloween break.
break.
it was also my birthday
Right.
back then. But it was Halloween too. Yeah.
What do you
Is
think
it- is
would be
that-
it? What do you
Oh, wait,
think
sorry,
would be
go
a
ahead.
great pairing? What do you think would be a great pairing between a musical guest and the host? What would you like to see?
Oh, that's such a
For
good.
SNL.
I always really like when there's a really big contrast between the host and the musical guest. So, like, I think it would be really fun to see. Geez, I'm trying to think. Like, like Ted Cruz, the politician. Like, if it was like Ted Cruz and I don't know, like the Indigo Girls or something. Just like anytime the math doesn't add up, I really like that.
That's funny.
Dude, that would be,
Ben Shapiro and Cardi B, pretty much.
Oh, I love that Ben Shapiro and Cardi B. That's so good.
Yeah.
I would love to see Ben Shapiro host that show. Have you guys ever met Ben Shapiro?
No.
No, what?
Uh,
What do you think he would be like? Like if you actually had a conversation with him in person?
It would not be a conversation.
I don't-
pretty much.
yeah.
Because Ben
Get out of my
Shapiro is
way.
pro-Israeli.
Yeah.
We are Arabs, therefore, by definition, we're pro-Palestinian. And that conversation alone would be very
This is
hectic
true.
and chaotic. So, I don't know.
Oh, he's so annoying, isn't he? Isn't he just the Can you imagine a human being looking and sounding more annoying than Ben Shapiro? It's just like I couldn't dream up anything more annoying than that.
Dude,
It's his voice as well, It's
But what do you think
can't
about
get
him?
through
Like,
it.
yeah.
What do you think about him most makes annoying, regardless of his physical traits, right? So his voice and the way he looks, like, about his personality. What do you think makes him annoying?
I think that one of the biggest things that makes him annoying is that he knows he's right about everything. And I think that that's a very annoying trait that people have. Even some people who I tend to agree with sometimes, like for instance, I feel like I probably agree with a lot of Bill Maher's points of view on things, but he also knows that he's right. And when you know you're right, that is a very annoying quality.
That is
Isn't he also a provocateur? Like, isn't that kind of his role in his
Yeah.
discussions? He likes
Yeah,
to
I think
provoke
it's-
people.
He does, and he seems very. You're talking about Ben Shapiro, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro strikes me as very, very desperate too. Like I think a lot of times when I hate someone, I'm actually I'm seeing very clearly them display qualities that I have in myself, but I think I'm better at hiding.
You're like, yeah, why are you doing that? Why are you so annoying?
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
you're
no,
not
no.
12 anymore.
But yeah,
true.
that's how a
Well,
conversation with Ben Shapiro would go. It'd be very chaotic
What-
and hectic.
When you made characters on the SNL on the Jimmy Fallon show, did you pick those characters? And you never did a Ben Shapiro character. You did a bunch of characters. But how do you pick those characters? Yeah.
Usually it would come from just starting with like a voice or sometimes just a news story. So like I did this one character on the show called Nigel Duffy, the annoying British correspondent. And that character came about when, because anytime there's ever a story about the royal family in the news, the people seem to care about it, which always perplexes me. Like I've just never understood.
Yes, me too. It's like, what? Why do we care about this stuff?
Yeah, why does anyone care about it? So I just, I just thought it would be fun to try to be a British reporter who really, really cares about it, and that's all he thinks about. So he's just, yes, very good, yes, there we are, attaboy, yes, he just does that all the time. Everyone is speculating over what sex the baby will be when it is born. Some believe it will be a boy, while others think it will be a girl. Just...
The thing is, you do it right. That's why it's funny. It's like when you do it, it actually sounds like, because I go to England a lot, and whenever I watch the news, that's exactly what I see. What you just did right there, like the whole emphasis on the last word of the sentence is really just, it's like, boy, okay.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like Boris as well.
True.
Wait, who's Boris? Oh, Boris
Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, so I have a question. Like, I probably should have asked you this before, but like, what is this podcast exactly?
Oh, this is a good question. Yeah, that's a very good question. And yes, you should have asked this before. We talk about anything and everything you would want to talk about, and we can go into greater details about that. But it's mainly about you. So each episode is about our guest, and today is featuring Arthur Meyer, right? So
we have guests from different countries, every single country around the world, pretty much. Every different country.
We just
and then different backgrounds. Yeah.
Is that the goal, to like try to get
every single country?
Every single country?
196 countries.
Pretty much.
And just,
we're at like 60 something right now. So
out of 196.
How did you guys come up with that idea?
It just happened. Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, because he's in Kuwait. Do you know anything about Kuwait?
I know very little about Kuwait. Can you tell me like a couple? Like, what are some like big things I should know about Kuwait?
Desert Storm, 1990, Iraq invasion.
That's like all I know.
That's like all you need to know, to be honest. Like, we're a tiny ass country.
How many people are in Kuwait?
Like 4 million. And
4 million?
Only 1 million are actual citizens. The rest are just like expats.
Yeah. It's like New York City.
We're like the Vatican.
Like pretty much.
Yeah, and I'm in Lebanon.
He's in Lebanon.
Oh, cool.
He's in LA. So that's how we came up with it. And then we have one of our staff members from like Poland, and we have one of our staff members in Florida, and we're just like all over the world. So we're like, hey, might as well conquer the entire world, right? And have one guest from each country. But
yeah. So I just want to ask you for some advice actually about this, because how do we find relevant topics? You said you studied the news to find relevant topics for Jimmy Fallon. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to have funny, relevant topics?
That's a good question. Well, I was lucky enough at Fallon. There was someone whose job it was to search through the news every day and compile like a Microsoft Word doc of like 4 or 5 pages of just like one-line news stories. So when I'm left to my own devices, I don't really know how to find news, or I guess it's just like what people are talking about and stuff. But then the internet kind of sucks, so I don't really know. I don't know. Mm. I don't know what relevant topics are. What would be a relevant topic right now? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Psychedelics seem to be something that seems like a sort of relevant topic. Have you guys ever used psychedelic drugs before?
No.
That's a great question.
Ever used psychedelic drugs?
You can tell us about your experience.
You can talk about your experiences if you like. But personally, I have never tried alcohol or any drugs.
Oh, you've never tried alcohol?
Nope.
Do you think you're gonna go your whole life without ever trying like any of that stuff?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
I'm loving how Arthur's changing this to his podcast.
You know what? Do you want me to be honest? I really don't mind. We can talk. Okay, so I've never like psychedelic drugs or even recreational like drugs are not my thing, and neither is alcohol. It's a mixture of two things. It's one, my religion, and two, my moral beliefs. Is the fact that I'm a guy who holds too many secrets to be on those kind of drugs, because I have this fear where I might slip up and say something I shouldn't, right? Like, think about it. Dude, yeah, a lot of my friends trust me with some very valuable
fear, to be honest.
And tough, so it's like,
you can easily slip up.
You can easily slip up, and if I do, especially me, not good at all. Like, it's gonna be terrible because I know too much. Let's leave it at that,
All right.
right?
I
So
know
it's-
too much. He's like holding all the secrets of his country. You know, it's like he doesn't want to share. anything.
Right. It's like CIA.
It's not about that. It's just the fact that, listen, when you know, like, when you're in 50 different friendship groups and they all seem to trust you very much, you're
Arthur,
bound to
have you
know
ever-
one or two, you know. So yeah, I
Spilled
want
any
to
secrets?
yeah, I want to ask you,
Have
have
you ever spilled any
spilled-
secrets?
I've probably spilled more secrets when I'm drunk than when I'm on drugs. Usually, when I'm on drugs, I kind of get a little bit quiet. So I think you would probably trust me more if I'm on drugs.
I mean, I think that would be the best time to tell you anything, really, because you just forget the next day and you'd be like, "What? But I told you." But you
Yeah,
forgot,
exactly.
right? That's a sketch
all right.
right there. It's like,
That's it's a controversial topic, not family friendly for the A2 show. So we can
True.
move on. Another controversial topic, not family friendly, is nudism. I want to ask you, Arthur. I know you've been nude in a bunch of your sketches. I know you've been nude on Shrill. What are you a nudist?
That's a
why
good
do you
question.
say it
Well,
like that? Nude.
Nude. I love all pronunciations of it. I've also been nude on the show High Maintenance. Have you guys heard of that show?
No.
I've seen that show. That's true.
Okay, cool. So I've been naked
Nice.
in 3 episodes of that show.
Okay.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I don't really think of myself as a nudist, but I used to be a nude art model for like art for the School of Visual Arts. So you know when like students are learning how to paint and draw and stuff like that, I was one of the models that they would like paint and sketch. So I think I've always just kind of been comfortable with my very average, sort of slightly out of shape body.
How do you end up? Sorry, how do you end up in being paint? You know, in a nude art class.
I think I used to maybe take my shirt off at parties and I would hand people a Sharpie and have them sign my body. So I would end the night with like all these autographs and messages. And I quit a job at a bookstore that I was working at, and then I needed to find work. So my friend was like, you know, I know the School of Visual Arts, they're looking for nude models, and you like to take your shirt off at parties. So would you like to audition? So you have to go and audition to be a nude model. And I said yes. I needed a job, and I'm like,
What
that
is
sounds
How do you audition?
Okay. See,
How
if
do
you
audition
started
for
there,
model?
if you started there with "I needed a job," everything would make sense, right? But the whole time I'm just like, why would you be butt naked in front of students? Like what? But then
I needed a
okay.
job.
I need
Well,
Well,
you wouldn't get paid to do it.
it's also one of the few jobs that falls within my skill set. Like I really don't know how to do very many things at all. Like I could do comedy stuff and writing, and I could stand there naked, and that's about all that I can do.
Your
how do you
CV must
audition
look
for this?
amazing. I have to
How do you
say.
audition for this kind of job?
What's that?
How do you audition for this kind of job for being
So
a
you
nude
you go
model?
you go to the School of Visual Arts and you go into an empty classroom with 2 other people there. There's the model registrar and his assistant, and they tell you to stand in front of them, and most models are supposed to have a robe. I did not have a robe, so instead I
Oh.
sort of like hopped awkwardly out of my socks and underpants, and then I'm standing there naked in front of them. And I had glasses at the time, and I was like, "Oh, do glasses count as clothing?" And they were like, "Yes, you could take those off too." So I'm just standing there. I can't see anything. I'm naked, and then they say, "Whenever you're ready, go ahead and take a pose." And I was very nervous. So I go, "Okay, I'm really sorry. Do you have like any advice? Because I've never really done this before." And they said, "Just don't take a pose that you can't maintain for a while, and don't do anything that's overly theatrical." And so I just was so nervous that for some reason, I don't know why, but I was on my toes, and this was the pose I took.
Oh, okay.
Which is like, if you can't see, it's as though I'm holding Yorick's skull from Hamlet. It's the most overly theatrical pose, and I'm on my toes too, so my butt starts shaking. And out of the corner of my eye, I see the model registrar just, furiously writing down notes and stuff. I have no idea what he's saying. I did not get the job. I failed the audition, and then I
Well,
re-auditioned.
Now you know
6
what
months.
that said, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably not the best one right now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just,
I was really bad at it. But yeah, you basically just take a series of 1 minute long poses for 5 minutes. So you do like 5 poses of your own choosing, and you could take any kind of pose that you want to. So yeah, that's the audition.
Wait, so you stood naked in front of just men or male
It
students?
was in
or
front of
it-
a man. The students would be a mix of like men and women.
Ali, would you be able to do that?
Ali, if I even talk about this anymore, like that's it. There goes my neck.
All
Like,
right, you move on to the next topic. Controversial.
Oh
No,
man,
no.
see, this is like this makes me want to talk about it so much more right
Dude,
now.
I would listen after the show. We can talk as much as you want about
No,
it.
but
Yeah.
this
But
is
right
what I want to know
now,
about
I
it.
kind of want my
Yeah.
neck. So
Are you genuinely like that?
I'm so curious. So like,
Fearless?
wait,
Yeah.
sorry, what's that?
Sorry, are you like generally that fearless? Are you just not? Are you just okay with your body? I don't know what it is that like. I don't think I could do that. I don't think a lot of people could do it. So
I think you'd be
But-
surprised. Like it's really the
Yeah.
moment when you first are naked in front of people is really scary. But then once you're naked, you can't get more naked than you already are. So it's just sort of it's
Yeah.
already there. And also to me, it's always kind of weird that people wear clothing. You know, like we enter this world naked. You know,
it's
And-
babies.
yeah.
You don't come out a full grown human being like, oh, that was a good 9 months. Like, no, you're just a baby. You're tiny.
But you know, we wear clothes because, like, I don't know. I guess why do we wear clothes is sort of my question. You know,
To cover
So-
up.
yeah.
Warmth.
Well, I guess warmth is a good practical reason. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you don't need warmth in the middle of quite 60 degrees Celsius weather, which is like 100 and something.
Ali,
Fahrenheit.
you're not helping your case right there.
Yeah, no, but it's not. That's not the reason we wear clothes. We wear clothes because I don't need my thing out in front of a bunch of different women. That's like I don't need it. I do not need that to be a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think if everyone was naked, we wouldn't like it wouldn't make it like it would all just kind of cancel itself out. You know what I mean? Like
It
it.
normalize a lot of things.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
basically sexual harassment and those things would be out the window because
That would
no
not
one would be there.
normalize it. That would increase it. What do you mean? We'd go
You
back
think
to
it
our
would
natural, like nature and instincts and shit, and it's just gonna be,
You just think it'll be people. I probably can't.
yeah,
I've-
yeah.
no. All right, moving on. Next
Moving
topic.
on,
All right.
Jimmy. I want to
right.
touch up on a few things about you being with Jimmy Fallon, right?
Yes.
So I have to be honest. Every time I watch his episodes, I'm just like, but is he really like this off camera? So my question to you is he really like that off camera, or is this just like a TV persona?
That's a good question. In many ways, he's really like that. I mean, I can say that he is a very wonderful person, and you know, I think he sort of has the same positivity off camera that he does on camera. But that being said, he's not like that energetic all the time because most of the day is spent kind of working on the show and everything. So, you know, he doesn't have that like energy. I think he saves that energy for the 1 hour every day that he's taping the show. So he's
Makes
really
sense.
positive. Yeah, he's like really positive. He's like maybe the hardest working person I've ever met. I'm always kind of, you know, I've always been really impressed by him, but he's not like constantly just upbeat all the time, but he's a very
Right.
good person and very fun to work with.
And can you confirm if his laugh is genuine?
Yeah, I actually think in some ways I mean I've sometimes thought that like the most genuine version of him is the version that people see on TV, because I think he really loves entertaining people and I think he really loves making people laugh. So I think he's really in the moment when he's laughing like that, you know, like that always seems very genuine to me.
Interesting. Right.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about a little bit about the things you write, right? So when you're writing on the show, I'm sure there's a bunch of ideas that get scrapped and like not published or shown on TV. What is the main reason, or what would be the most occurring reason for an idea that you have to be written off or just, you know, pushed to the side?
Ooh, man, there's so many possible reasons for that. It's actually very hard to get an idea on the show for a lot of reasons. One is just the sheer volume of material that is submitted. There's probably like 15 or 16 writers or something like that, each of whom spend, you know, most of their day writing. So if you think about like how much total material that would be, it's probably like at least 95% of what gets written does not get on the show, just because there wouldn't be enough time to put all that on the show.
Wow.
But you know, like when guests would come on the show, the writers would be asked to like pitch ideas for the guests. The guests are going to be on in a couple weeks. Let's all think of ideas. Each writer usually ends up thinking of a couple of ideas, and then there's a total of, you know, I don't know, 20 ideas or something that are possible for a guest. So there's no way you could do 20 of them. You usually don't do more than one. So the ideas just kind of keep getting narrowed down. So, you know, you bring an idea list into Jimmy and he chooses something that he likes, and that, or he'll choose a few ideas and then those get pitched to the guest, and then the guest will hopefully choose one of those ideas. So it's sort of like constantly a process of narrowing things down and cutting things down. Sometimes things don't get on the show if Jimmy's just not feeling it. Like if he's just like, you know, if he's just not into it. A lot of ideas get pitched to him, and a lot of his job is to just say yes or no to stuff. That's sort of how it works with those shows. It's a lot of volume, you know, it's a lot of quantity. And that's sort of part of the aesthetic of the show too. That's something I really liked, is that you could come up with something and I don't know, then the next day you have another show. So I almost always thought of like our shows being like the baseball season, where like in baseball there's like 162 games you play pretty much every day, whereas Saturday Night Live to me feels more like the football season, where you have like one big game every week, you know. So when you have a baseball season, like even the best teams lose, you know, 50 games a year, you know, but you know, and the worst teams win 40 or 50 games a year too. So you just kind of like do your show and then it's over, and then you go out and you do another show. So there's kind of like room for imperfection, and that's a big thing that I love about comedy.
Epic.
That's true.
Yeah.
But from the ones you've had that have gotten chosen, what do you think makes those bits really funny or interesting or get green lighted?
For the ones that have gotten picked, usually I think my favorite ones are the ones that I genuinely find really funny. So I've always thought of like working at a late night show as almost like a Venn diagram, where there's two circles. There's the circle of stuff that you find funny, and there's the circle of stuff that would get on the show. And what you want to try to do is combine the two. You want to get that little the middle section. Yeah. So you want to write stuff that you find really funny, which sounds pretty simple, but a lot of times when you're writing at a show like that, you could get sort of lost in like trying to approximate the type of material that would get on the show, and you sort of lose your own personal sensibility. If you're able to kind of keep in mind, like, what do I find funny? What genuinely makes me laugh? Right. So there were a lot of ideas I pitched that I thought had like a 1% chance of getting on the show because I just found them so funny. And then sometimes those would be the things that would get on the show, because it's like, oh yeah, this surprised me when I wrote it, so it surprises Jimmy when he's reading it, you know. It all starts with you, the person creating the stuff. It has to feel right. There has to be an instinct there, a gut feeling about it.
Do you write according to the guests coming on the show, or do you just write a bunch of scripts and then, you know, Jimmy will kind of go like, you know what, that's the guest and that's the perfect one, and
it's always a mix of stuff. That's the other cool thing about working at that show, is you can have things inspired by really anything. Like sometimes you'll just see like, okay, what guest is coming on the show? Okay, you know, Robert Downey Jr., what would be a fun thing for him to do? But then like another time, my friend Colin, he's the head writer to the show right now, he used to do this thing when he would go out to karaoke, and if you were singing a song, like if you were up on stage and you go, she's just a small town girl, Colin would be yelling. He'd go like, where does she live? And then the next line of the song is living in a lonely world. Yeah. And
I was
so we decided
that song yesterday. That's crazy.
And so that was just a thing that Colin used to just do for fun. And I told him, I'm like, we should make that into a bit on the show. And Will Ferrell was coming on the show. So I was like, well, he would be the perfect person to do that. So Colin and I just wrote up the sketch based on this thing that he used to do in everyday life, you know?
Right.
And then sometimes, so, you know, in that case, that was like you have the idea, and then you're like, you sometimes wait and you're like, who would be a good person to do this? Because you don't want to mess it up with like a guest that won't really deliver. Will Ferrell can pretty much deliver on anything. Yes. And he's also really good at yelling. So, you know, but then other times the sketches are inspired by the person. I remember Bryan Cranston was coming on the show, and I've just always thought he's a really good dramatic actor. I mean, he could do comedy too, but I pitched a soap opera sketch where he and Jimmy, it was basically a soap opera, but they were suspended 5 feet off the ground. It was called Suspended Suspense. So it's just like it's a really dramatic, it's just a very dramatic scene, but they're just like floating and they have no control over themselves. And I just thought it would be a really silly contrast to very dramatic acting, something that Bryan Cranston could do. So in that case, the guest informed the idea.
I mean,
have you ever had the guest that wouldn't want to do any of these sketches?
Yeah, that would definitely happen. A lot of times you would pitch guests ideas and they would say, actually, I don't want to do anything. Or sometimes they would say, I still want to do something, but I don't want to do any of these ideas. And then you would have to go back to the drawing board and pitch them something else. There are certain guests who were who would just be guaranteed to say yes to something every time, and then certain guests where it was a little bit more like pulling teeth.
Name names.
No, I don't know if that's legal.
Dude, it's completely legal. What do you mean?
To deal with?
Who's your favorite guest to deal with, and then who was the worst guest you've ever dealt with?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, my favorite guest to deal with was probably. Oh, there were so many good ones. I mean, honestly, any cast member that had been on Saturday Night Live was wonderful. I did not work. I worked with a lot of SNL cast members, and not one of them was even close to being a dick. Like, they were just incredibly nice. Will Ferrell was unbelievably down to earth.
But I feel like rappers are gonna be the worst to deal with. I have this feeling in me. It's like a rapper who takes himself way too seriously is probably gonna deny like any of the sketches that you. It's this feeling inside. I don't know where it's coming from.
Or sports players. Shaq.
Oh yeah, well Shaq was wonderful. So I used to do an impression of Shaq on the show. I didn't do blackface or anything like that.
Okay,
but
that's good.
Because Shaq has a podcast, and I pitched a bit where it was just the Shaq podcast, and he had Kim Kardashian on, and she was about to have another baby, and it was just Shaq suggesting names for the baby, because they already had a baby that was called Northwest. Yes. So Shaq was like, what if you called the baby another direction? And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. He's like, what about east? No. What about southeast? What about southwest? What about northwest? And it's so like, anyway, this got on the show, and
that's
then
on
Shaq,
point, the impersonation.
What's that?
It's the
impersonation's on point, yeah.
Oh, thank
very
you.
on point, yeah.
So Shaq was a fan of this bit. Like they brought it to his attention, and they started featuring the bit on his podcast. And then he came on our show and he got interviewed, and he and Jimmy were talking about the Shaq podcast bit that we do on the show. And then after the show, Shaq was in the hall, or after his interview, Shaq was in the hallway, and I wanted to meet him. So I just see Shaq looking around, and he just goes, where's the guy who does my voice? And I go, oh, that's me. And he goes, let's hear the voice. And I go, what's going on? It's me, Shaq. And he goes, yeah, that's me.
That's crazy, man.
So great.
But you still haven't answered my question, or me and Saeed's question. I'm not letting you go. I have to know. Worst guest you've ever had to deal with?
The worst guest I've ever had to deal with. It's truly hard to think of. And I'm really not just trying to protect anyone. I'm just like, it's hard to really. I mean, I remember. No, it's like no one has really been mean that I could think of. I think that there's a few guests who are like sort of protective of their celebrity, and they really want to, make sure that everything runs very smoothly. So they kind of want to know exactly what happens. But I wouldn't say that that's like, that's not mean or anything like that. That's just they're just very detail oriented. Like Ben Stiller was like very detail oriented, but he was also really fun to work with. But he really just wanted to make sure that everything went smoothly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's a comedy legend. Yeah. I want to ask you about interviewing people, because you interview people. How do you just go up to random people and talk to them? Do you have any tips for us?
Are you talking about my sort of, when you say that I've interviewed, you mean like for the Man on the Street segments on Fallon?
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well,
On the
actually, it's
streets.
fun. It's funny because I'm just working on a podcast idea that I have right now called Arthur Meyer Talks to Strangers, which it hasn't been released yet. But the idea is that I just go up to people on the street and just talk with them.
Is this the first time you ever like say it on a show or on a podcast?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey,
Oh, yeah, we
it's
got-
exclusive. Arthur Meyer talks to
Yeah.
strangers.
Announcement.
There you go. That's an announcement.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's
What's
gonna be really cool.
the bet?
I think
Yeah.
it for me it's really helpful to remember that we're all people. So it's really easy to talk to people because we're all alive now and we're all going to die one day. And so that can kind of allow you to just connect with anybody. Like I'll just be walking down the street and I'll look at people and just be like, "Oh, that poor person is like they're going to die also," you know? like
Maybe sooner, maybe later, but it's gonna
Maybe,
happen.
yeah.
That's true.
And so you could just kind of connect with anyone, and usually people are kind of down to talk about anything they want. People love talking. That's one thing that I've noticed is that if you just ask people questions, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this too,
Yes.
people really just like to talk, you know, and they really like being heard and they really like being
True.
understood.
It's
I mean, the
What
way
would you
that
like
you
to talk to them about?
what's that?
What would you like to talk to them about? Like these random
Honestly,
strangers.
anything. Usually it starts where I go up to them and I'll say, "Excuse me, are you interested in being on a podcast?" And they say, what is the podcast?"
Yes, we
And
are.
I go, yeah. And I go, "Well, it's called Arthur Meyer Talks to Strangers, and I'm Arthur Meyer, and you would be the stranger." And they go, "Well, what would we talk about?" And I'm like, "I don't know," you know. And then we just talk about anything. I had one guest who talked about how he was really into white gangster rap. I had another guest who was about to become he was listing like white gangster rappers named like Sexy Seth and Beautiful Bobby, who I've never heard of.
No, those
I
are
don't know
white
if he was-
stripper male names.
Yeah, they really are.
So not rap
and then
names.
like another person I talked to is a guy who was about to become a New York City cop, like right around when the quarantine happened, and then that got his license got pushed back. But then like within the next month or two, he decided that he didn't want to be a cop. He started attending like Black Lives Matter rallies and stuff, and was like, you know, he was very lucky that he didn't become a cop, is how he felt. So you just talk to people about like anything, whatever they want to talk about, you know, whatever's on their mind.
Yes. Exactly what we do.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
pretty much what we do.
But on
Except
Zoom.
we do it on Zoom. That's one too. We talk to people who are from different places, but at the same time are experts at something. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
jump rope from France, what else did we have? We had a chef,
A journalist from China.
Yep,
Yeah.
a chef from like it's just these like weird and out
A
of the
magician
earth
from the Middle East.
Pretty much, yeah,
Yeah.
magician from the Middle
Yeah.
East, and it's just what's crazy is you come to realize the foundation of every human being alive is pretty much the same, right? Our whole morals, our integrity, everything we care and love about is pretty much the same. It's just
Right.
a bunch of added shit, right? So, to you, what is your favorite experience with talking to strangers?
Oh boy, that's a really good question. Let's see. I talked to someone sort of recently who was he was a 25-year-old guy who skateboards in Washington Square Park, and he's also a model, and he has 3 kids, and he's also been stabbed in the back, and he's been shot. So he was only 25. So that's like a lot of things to happen by the time that you're 25. There was another person I
And 3
talked
kids
to,
as well.
and 3 kids. Yeah, there was another person I talked to who's one of those guys who like plays chess in the park. Have you guys ever seen those? Like
Yep.
in New York City?
Yep.
Yeah, like
in
so
Central
he's one
Park,
of-
yeah.
Yeah, and they'll just like they're kind of looking for people to just play chess with them and give them some money and stuff. So I played chess with that guy, and he was very fun to talk to. And he told me all about his life as like a chess, you know, just like a guy who plays chess in the park every day.
That's crazy.
I
I don't know
yeah, I
what
mean,
my
I
friend
haven't-
is doing, but I'm sorry about that.
That's
We're
fine.
just covering
no
his
problem.
table and his
Me.
keyboard.
Yeah, he's following Ali, focus.
Yes.
I'm the one with ADHD, not you.
But it's sort of funny. The fun thing about like talking to strangers is that, you know, you go outside and there's just like thousands of people, and just about anyone is someone that you could talk to if you want to, you know. And then if you pursue that, then you have some sort of reality where you're interacting with them. So then there are all these other people who you're not talking to, and it's like, well, what would we have talked about, you know? There's all these endless possibilities. So that's what
so
I
it's
love.
a curiosity.
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
That's awesome. I love that approach and that curious approach, because I feel like it's very rare nowadays that someone would go up to a stranger and ask them a question or talk to them. Also because we all have phones now. You know, you must know, like, you're driving down, you know, the subway and everyone's just sitting down in the train on their phones.
Yeah.
You know, no one's making
I think
conversation.
that's such an LA thing to say. You're driving down the subway.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
Yeah,
absolutely
but-
right though. It's a really good, I think right now is a really good time. That's part of the reason I started the podcast, was because it just feels like a good time for people to just talk to each other. I don't know if there's more division and hatred in the world now than there used to be, but you know, everything just feels very extreme all the time. And I
think,
yeah.
I want to say, I think just the things that are more extreme are being highlighted, and the good things around the world are not being highlighted. And this is why
we're here,
like promoting different people, because we think that there is so much amazing things, so many amazing people around the world. Most people are amazing, so we got to try to highlight those people.
At a time of huge negativity, we try to be the positives, right? And try to push forward the good message of, hey, life is life. There's, as much as there are negatives, there are positives, right? So we try to equilibrate everything.
Absolutely.
We are the equilibrium.
We are the equilibrium. We are the equalizers. We are the
It's
equalizers.
important to remember that everybody poops, you know, like everybody sleeps, everybody poops, everyone's alive, everyone's gonna die. Like, everyone needs to eat, everyone needs to sleep, you know, like these are the basic things, and we all have them in common.
Basically. And
Well, I guess that's our timestamp.
That is
right
our
there.
timestamp. Yep. We did it, and
Great way to
wow.
end the show.
It's been a while since I had a fun combo like that. Arthur, honestly, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank
you very much
It
for
was
watching another
awesome.
episode of A2 The Show. If you guys enjoyed this episode half as much as we enjoyed
Subscribe,
filming,
share
like
with your
and
friends.
share. We'll leave a link to
laugh, share.
Arthur's everything, social media, his podcast, hopefully once it comes out, his Instagram, Snap, Twitter, anything in the description below.
Whatever you want. Facebook, LinkedIn.
What else do I usually say?
Comment.
Arthur.
Arthur, is there anything you'd like to shout out or let the world know?
I just want to let people know, if you go on Instagram and you follow the account, it's called Late Night Thumbnails. So that's a new account that
That's
I
you?
started. Yeah,
Yep.
that's me.
Nice.
Check it out. Link will be in the
That's the only
description.
thing. Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you very
Funny
much.
bitch. Check it out.
We wish you
Arthur.
Thank you,
peace,
guys.
Another episode.
love, happiness. See ya.